Welcome back to another episode of The Road Chose Me. My name's Dan, and this week we've got so much work to do, we're going to get stuck straight into the build of the Dream Overland camper. Our first job this week is bonding the rear floor section into the frame of the Jeep. Once that rear floor is in, it'll be a lot easier to work inside. So this is me preparing the rear floor to be bonded in. And you can see the construction here of the material. This is a commercially bought panel with the honeycomb core and 2-ply of fiberglass on each side. To be able to bond this structurally, we need to make sure the glue will actually stick well. So we use a fine sandpaper to buff off the shine and then a coarse sandpaper to really scratch into the fiberglass. This will make certain that we get a really good bond. Remember, all of these panels are only held on with glue. There are no bolts holding these panels together. It's impressive to realize Michael had to do this for all of the walls and every panel that makes up the entire camper. The rear floor is directly above the muffler in the exhaust, so we're bonding on this heat shielding that's a little bit like Dynamat. This is intended to make sure that the fiberglass won't overheat and structurally get a little bit less strong. You can also see here too with the light on the panel where we've scuffed where the actual bonding will be. You can see how much of the shine we've taken off. I also have to scuff up the frame in exactly the same way and use the special activator.
Oh, that's where I get stuck. Oh.
Arms up, arms up.
My chest scrapes on the front of the bumper.
It's because that little plastic thing on there.
And here we've coated the frame in the special glue that's a bit like Sikaflex, and we're finally ready to bond in the rear floor section. I'm passing it through the open roof, Michael catches it, and here we are lowering it down onto our newly prepped, sanded, activated and glued surface. The temperature's warming up, and so this actually happens quite quickly. We don't have a lot of time to waste. We need to get this down and we need to get it in the right spot. Once we're happy with where it's sitting, we add a whole bunch of weight on top to make certain we're getting really good contact and squeeze out of our glue. We're going to leave it like this for 48 hours without walking on it to make certain that we have a really good bond and that we don't mess it up by flexing the frame or otherwise twisting things before the glue can cure. Now that we have a nice floor inside, we should make it easier to get in and out. Michael designed the frame of the camper to accept this commercially bought galvanized ladder. It has a nice latch to keep it closed and it slides out in about 1 second. I really like the idea that we don't just have a small plastic ladder that we have to store inside somewhere. This keeps all the mud on the outside and no reason to take up space on the inside unnecessarily. From factory, the Jeep has a backup camera, and we decided it would be really nice to incorporate it again. Michael bought this relocation kit / bracket off the internet that does a really good job of mounting the factory camera in this sturdy steel box to make sure that it's protected and it won't get damaged on the back of the camper. We're pretty careful. We're going to mount it at the same height that it was originally. It's pointing at the same angle that it was originally. So even the backup guidelines and everything like that should function exactly as they always did. Really nice to have a backup camera on such a big camper. The camera itself uses some sort of coax cable with this connector, and Michael was able to find a guy online that just sold an extension for it. So all I need to do is plug it in there, and I've got quite a few extra feet of length on that cable. That's perfect to be able to feed it forward and plug it into the original Jeep harness exactly as it always was. I really enjoy all of Michael's extensive aircraft and aerospace experience, and this little no step sticker was a great touch. However, we've waited 48 hours, now we can walk inside. The next task for me is to wire up all of the rear lights. We have to extend all the wires around so that I can plug them into the factory harnesses, and all the lights across the back of the camper will function just like a factory Jeep. I've decided that I'm going to solder all of these joints together, and I can never remember, is the internet currently all about soldering for automotive, or would people prefer that I use crimps? I'm sure everyone will let me know down in the comments. On Michael's I used crimps, on mine I'm soldering them and then heat shrinking each and every join before wrapping them in cloth electrical tape. As you can imagine, there are a lot of different wires here, and at one point the loom that I create is 15 separate wires that run from on the back wall here all the way around to the factory connectors. This takes a long time. I'm labeling everything carefully, I'm measuring all of the wires, and this is exactly the kind of job that I just love getting stuck into because it feels like such great progress. So a bit of a progress update. I am deep into the wiring, as you've seen, and this the first time you've seen inside, I'm not sure. Michael's stuck down this piece of cardboard, makes it really nice to kneel inside. Just for now, while the floor's in progress, you can see we don't have the forward floor bonded in. Those are the two big Jeep wiring harnesses that I am connecting everything to. So I started way over here. We've got marker lights on the side. Then we come in, we've got brake, turn signal, and headlight running lights. Then we've got our reverse positive and negative. Goes over, we pick up, this is the reverse camera. The high mount brake light is up there. I'm gonna run that down that wall. It'll join in. This is my progress right now. I've spliced in nearly everything except the marker lights. It has to run all the way around that way. Down in that bottom corner, I'll plug a bunch of it into the driver's side harness. And then I am actually gonna run it along under the floor to plug things into the passenger side harness. And there is an argument to be made here. You could just double things up. You could just plug both reverse lights into the driver's side. Shorter wiring, maybe easier. It might work. The thing is, the Jeep has a circuit. It can detect when things aren't plugged in and when lights aren't working. So it may just pop up on the dash and say, hey, your passenger side reverse light or brake light isn't working. In fact, it would be, but it's plugged into the driver's side. The Jeep just doesn't know. It just senses that nothing is plugged into the passenger side. So when we were wiring Michael's, we had a quick little discussion and we said, you know what? Let's just keep it all 100% the same as it was. Even the high mount brake light, I will plug that into the Jeep harness where the original high mount brake light was. Same for the light on the license plate, same for literally everything. Let's just use all the factory plugs and all the factory locations. And on Michael's, that has not been a single problem. The computer has never said anything about lighting problems. So let's do exactly the same thing on mine. All I need to do now is just put in the time and get it done and convert this into some sort of coherent bunch of wires instead of whatever I have going on right now. Yeah, it's just another one of these jobs. It's the devil's in the details on these kind of projects where, you know, you see the structure and you think, oh yeah, I'm gonna bond that on, that'll be great. I'll throw a bumper on the front, I'll throw some new suspension on it, I'll be good to go. The hundreds of hours add up on jobs like this. As well as making the actual wire connections, I'm also bundling the loom and zip tying it to the little stick-on pads. I want to keep it up out of harm's way, and I'm sure I'll put it in some conduit in the future when I figure out more internal wiring and all of the cabinets. You can see just how many wires I'm dealing with, although I was careful to label them all, and thankfully I never got confused. After running the wires all the way around, it's time to deal with those big Jeep wiring harnesses and all of these connectors. Some of these are CAN diagnostic connectors, some of them are RF antennas, there's an RF module, there's all kinds of Jeep computers in here. Some of them I need to connect into and some of them I can just leave alone. For now I'm just going to tidy everything up and find a nice home for it out of the way. These harnesses have big grounding straps to the Jeep body, and we found out they're actually necessary to make the key work. Without this, you can't start the car at all. We debated whether we should ground the actual camper, the steel frame that Michael has added to the Jeep. We don't need it for our wiring purposes, but in the end, we decided there's no reason not to. So here we are making a grounding strap and then grounding out the actual camper frame. We had to grind off some of the powder coat and then we tied it in to those same grounding straps. These Jeep harnesses are incredibly bulky and complicated. My goal here is to zip tie them up out of the way as best as I possibly can. I want them off the floor so they won't get any tiny water damage, and I also want them to be accessible in the future when we cut access hatches to be able to access this volume for things like batteries and water tanks. In the end, I got it really neat and everything is accessible. In order to wire up the actual taillights, I needed to verify exactly what pin on the plug did what function. I also checked the Jeep wiring diagrams and I double checked to make sure that I had everything right. So I've got a 12 volt power supply here and I'm just powering the pins and watching what happens on my original LED taillights. With all of this information in hand, I came up with a pin diagram, and the plan here is I'm going to use factory plugs that I bought so that I can just plug directly into the factory harness in the Jeep. I'm not actually cutting or modifying the Jeep end of things at all. So now all that I need to do with my diagram there in front of me is to actually pin the plug. So I very carefully made sure that everything wasn't mirrored and that I had it all under control as I crimp on a pin and then insert it into the correct location in the plug. Once I've built the entire plug, I literally can just plug it into the Jeep, clip over the little non-release clip, and that's it. We've now connected all of our rear lighting to the Jeep in a very factory way. That was the driver's side you just watched me do, and like so many jobs on this project, now I just have to do exactly the same thing on the other side. Again, I'm being really careful to make sure I don't have this plug mirrored. It depends if you look at it from the direction the wires go into the plug or from the face of the plug. In any case, I got it right, I think. Next on the list is to fill in these gaps where the rear doors used to be. Michael made these fiberglass pieces. He actually molded them off his Jeep long before I even arrived. And so we're doing a test fit. We're extremely excited to see that the Jeep build tolerances are close enough that they fit perfectly. So Michael trimmed them to size, and then again, this is me preparing the composite. So same as before, I have to scratch off the gloss, I have to deeply scar it with coarser sandpaper, we have to prepare it with the activator, then we glue it, then we hold it in place while the glue sets. Of course, we don't only do that on the part we're bonding on, but also on the Jeep where we're actually going to bond it. So my first task here is to mask around the part, leaving a tiny gap so we can have a little bit of a fillet. Then I'm going to scuff and prepare the Jeep surface ready for that same bond. And yes, I really am just scratching the original Jeep paint, but it's fine because you'll never see it, and we need the glue to bond really well here to make sure that it's solid and waterproof. We wipe it down with alcohol, we activate it, and then we're ready to glue. This has been an amazing part of the project for me to learn to work with composite materials. I've never done anything like this before, and doing it all with Michael's expertise and knowledge has been an incredible way to learn how it all works. Watching his ability to design and build anything out of any material that he wants to is so powerful. It's the kind of thing I've always dreamed of being able to do, and this is really inspiring for me to see it actually happen in real life. Sometimes there's a little bit of excess glue, but it's really easy to wipe off with rubbing alcohol, so it's not a problem at all. So guys, I've just finished the majority of the wiring and we decided it's time to take it for a test drive, see that we didn't fry the computers when we were welding on it, make sure there aren't any weird noises, make sure that everything is going well. So we've taken it off the jack stands. It is currently sitting on its wheels for the first time in a while, which is exciting. Those are just sport wheels. We're just using those for now because it gives us lots of access. We'll be swapping those. We've got Michael in the driver's seat right now. Michael, could you put your foot on the brake, please? There we go. We have all the brake lights. That's really cool. Maybe four-way flashes, please. Four-way flashes are flawless. And then headlights on a click. All right, we get running lights, including the little guy on the side here. Over here, we get a running light. That is basically all of the functions we can test, I think. Unless Michael starts it up. If you want to start it. That is the first time it's been running in a while. And there we go. Michael just put it in reverse. We have reverse lights. The one on the bumper is not wired in right now, so that one down there is not working because I haven't finished that. But there we go. How about our reverse camera, Michael? Do we have a reverse camera? Rear park sense unavailable, service required. That's because they're unplugged. Yeah. The screen, there's a button somewhere that says screen off. Might be on the bottom right. I'm not really sure what the screen's doing. I'll figure that out in a minute when I jump in. But you could drive it out of here if you want. I'll get the door. All right, so here we are on the first test drive. We made the screen work. I had the security module unplugged, so that's why that wasn't working. We just turned off the turn signal lamp diagnostic. So now the computer is not going to complain about the turn signals not working. The rear park sensors aren't working because I haven't wired them in yet. They're still disconnected. No big deal. I'll just turn around up here. So the Jeep runs and drives. I think it's good. Yeah, we can hear some rattles. We have no roof on it. We have obviously the plastic sheeting behind us. There's still a few things that need work, but overall, it's a functioning, running, driving camper Jeep, I think. I really want to take that down so we can see. We can just put it back again. There you go. Oh, this is like open air driving at its best. So there we go, everyone. That was the first test drive of my new Jeep camper. I don't know how to feel right now. I'm like hyper excited, but also weird because there is still so much to do before it's finished. As you can see, there is no roof rack, so that's a big job that has to come. There is no roof at all. Still a lot of work to come on that. There are no fender liners, so we can just see right through to the other side. We have not sorted out the whole fuel filler area, so that has to come. Really happy that all my wiring worked flawlessly though. The reverse camera, flawless. I can hear the relay clicking for this big reverse light, so I know that when I wire it in, it's going to work. I just haven't wired it in yet. That is coming. So there it is, the Jeep camper. Whoops, still no guard fender on this side. And it looks pretty funny with these small tires. It's just what it is because we're working on it. We've got my real ones over there that we'll put on soon. So thanks again very much for watching. This is a huge project. You can see how excited I am. And of course, building it is just half of the thing. The reason to build it is the adventures that I'm going to take it on. And that, of course, is what I'm really excited about. So in the next episode, we're going to tackle all of those things I talked about, probably a bunch of other stuff that I can't even remember right now. As always, thanks for watching. Thanks to all my supporters on Patreon. They are making this possible. They are getting behind the scenes content, early access, all of that good stuff is available over on Patreon right now. So remember to go and check that out. If you have any questions about the build, about what we're doing, about why we're doing it, fire them away down below. I'm always happy to answer them either in the comments or I'll film a video in the future about exactly that topic. So don't be afraid, leave a comment, let me know what you think. The Jeep camper gets closer and closer to reality every day. Fantastic. Thanks again for watching so much. Have fun out there and maybe I'll bump into you on the road. That's the ladder. Oh, the spaces are in the hard top. They won't fall out. Oh, can you just pull them out from the top?
Yeah.
Do we need to mark which one's which? Oh, okay. It's safe to do this while driving, I think.